Hey everyone, in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this very simple but elegant pattern in Procreate on the iPad. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to create a new canvas and it's going to be 12 by 12 inches at 300 dpi. You could do any size as long as it is square. And then let's create that. And then let's get to my Apple Pencil here. I'm going to use a template from my pattern template library. You can purchase this by following the link in the description below. But basically I have a bunch of templates that you can use to create really well balanced patterns. It's really great for those that are starting out. I also have included these example layouts. So to help you lay out your motifs, you can follow one of these guided layouts. So for this one I am going to select this one here. It's a star layout and I've called it star flowers, and so I'm just going to click on the middle of the canvas there, select that, and then select fit to canvas, and then I'm going to change the blending mode to that layer to multiply and just reduce it down. This is just going to be a guide. I'm not going to actually use that itself. So I'm going to create another layer and I'm going to place that below the guide. And let's just lock that guide layer just in case. We don't want to move that at all. So here on this layer 2, we are going to start sketching. And to sketch, I am going to use the 6B pencil, which is in the sketching brush library. And then I also want to turn on symmetry, so you might be able to see here that the guide is symmetrical. So if I go into actions and then canvas and then drawing guide, you can select that and turn it on, and then go into edit drawing guide, then click on symmetry, and it will default to the vertical, but you do have some other options here, horizontal, quadrant or radial, but for this pattern you want to use the vertical one, and then just click done. So now I'm just going to start sketching that out, and I've just selected a dark color, and then I will just start sketching out my motif, and just using this as a guide. I'm not going to do little circles for my flowers. I'm going to try something different here. And don't worry if you go off the side, it's just a guide. Alright, I'm going to turn off my guide layout and just have the sketch there. I'm pretty happy with that. So next up we will colour. So I'm going to change the sketch layer to multiply and just bump that opacity down a bit. You can name your layer as well if you want to keep things nice and organised. So I'll just call that one sketch. And then I'm going to create another layer on top and then drag it underneath, and this will be our first colour layer. And to start with, I'm going to use this brown here to draw the branches, and I'm going to use the monoline brush, which is in the calligraphy library, which is a nice smooth brush. And I also want to turn on the drawing assist so that we get the symmetry happening. So just click the layer and turn on drawing assist, and you can see it says assisted there. So now when I draw on here, we'll get the symmetry. And then to colour those leaves, I'm just going to drag in the colour. I like to hold it here to check the threshold. So I haven't taken my pencil off. I can change the threshold by dragging it left or right, and see if I go too far it will fill the whole canvas. So I just want to bring that back And then let's continue on, and then I'm going to click the continue fill, and I can just tap in each of these leaves to fill in the colour. Okay, let's move on to the next colour, which will be my purpley colour here, and this will be the petals. I also want to turn on the drawing assist. And I might turn off the sketch layer now, as I don't really need it, and then just fill in these petals. And let's do another layer, turn on drawing assist, and this time I'm just going to draw in the base of the flowers. Okay, next I want to add some detail to my petals and the leaves. So I'm going to add a layer above the petals and then clip it. So if I click on that layer and then select clipping mask, this will mean that when I draw on top of the petals, I can't go outside of the edge of the petals. So to show you what I mean, if I draw like that, you can see it stayed within the petals. And then if I disable the clipping mask, it will go outside. So that's a really good way to keep things within a element. So I'm just going to clear that, and I'm going to select the same color, and then I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply, and that will allow it to just give it a darker tone than the original color. I also want to get a textured brush, so I'm going to go to the organic library and select the reed brush, and let's just check it's the right size. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to draw in some little detail lines, and I have forgotten to turn on the drawing assist, so let's go back and turn on the drawing assist, and let's try that again. When I'm doing things like this, I want it nice and loose. Instead of just using my hand like that, I like to use my whole, it gives a nicer organic feel to it, and a bit looser, I guess. Much like you would paint on a canvas, you'd want to use the whole, not just the hand. Okay, I now want to do the same sort of thing but on the leaves. So I'm going to create a layer above the leaves and also clip that, and also turn on drawing assist. I'm going to select a white color here and keep the same brush and change the blending mode to an overlay, and this will create a highlight effect on the leaf. So it still brings in a bit of that brown, but it just lightens the line. So next we need to create the repeating pattern tile. So I'm going to turn off the drawing guide, and then I'm going to group all of these together. So I'm just dragging them all to the right and then click on group, and I'm going to name this original, and I'm going to create, and now I'm going to turn off that background color, use 3 fingers to swipe down and select copy all, 3 fingers to swipe down and then select paste, and then that has pasted a merged layer, so it's merged all those original layers into one. So with this one I am then just going to turn that background back on, select a darker color, doesn't matter what brush, and just make a mark in the top right and the bottom left. And the reason for this is that when you select it, because you have those marks there, it's going to select the whole canvas. If you didn't have the marks there, it would just select that floral motif. So we want the whole canvas to be selected. And now we want to duplicate that. So we have 4, and we want to then select them and move them to each of the 4 corners. So to do this, make sure you've got magnetics and snapping on and the distance and velocity all the way to the max. And so then we can just click and drag and it will snap in, and you'll notice an orange line there and an orange line there, and then move it across, and once again you should see 4 orange lines there, and that will mean that you're in the right spot. And then just repeat with the others to the other corners. Now, this can take a bit of practice. If it doesn't work the first time, just give it another go. It can get a bit fiddly sometimes. I've been doing it for years, so I've kind of got the knack of it now, but you might find it tricky if this is the first time you've ever tried to do it. Okay, once I've got those 4 in the right position, I'm going to merge them together, turn off the original, and we just want to erase those marks. So erase those using the eraser, and then turn back on the original. So now this is a repeating tile. You might want to put a background. So if I create another layer, drag it to the bottom, we can select a color. So the blue looks quite nice, or let's create another one. I'm going to go with that pink and then just go quite light. So I'm just using the color wheel there to select a lighter tone and then bring that in. That's quite nice as well. I'm also going to apply a texture to the top, so I'm going to create a layer at the top and go to my pattern template library, and down the bottom is a repeating texture. So I'm just going to select that and make sure I've got a dark color selected, and then tap in, select it, and then fit to canvas. And then I need to change the blending mode, so click on the little N, and for this one I'm just going to go with an overlay. So now you can see, if I zoom in, that lovely texture, linen texture, has been applied. So that is now your repeating pattern tile, and that will repeat nicely if you were to, say, upload it to a print-on-demand website, or you were sending it to a client who you've licensed it to. That could work for them as well. Another thing you might want to do is create a different scale or test this out a little bit further. So to do that, all I'm going to do is use the 3 fingers to swipe down and select copy all, 3 fingers to swipe down and then paste. And then if you look in here, it's just created a merged layer of that repeat tile. So let's just group all those originals first so we don't get confused, and we'll name that pattern tile 1, and then let's duplicate this merged one. So we've got 4, and then we want to reduce them down to the 4 quadrants. So let's just select the first one, make sure that snapping is all on, and then you can grab the little blue nodule here, and if you tap on it, it will bring up this dimensions box, and you can type in the dimensions. So if you were doing a 12 by 12 inch, which is 3,600 pixels, you want to enter in half, which is 1800, and make sure that lock is on, and then you see it just snap into place in that corner. And then you could also just do it, so let's select the next one. You can also just click and drag if you've got that snapping turned on. And then I'll just repeat for the other 2. And there is our smaller scale repeating tile. This can also be used as exported out to upload to a print-on-demand website if you want. So I'm going to group those together as well, and I'm going to say pattern tile 2. And so you've got the smaller scale, and then you've got the larger scale. Okay, I have left a link to the color palette if you want to download that. I've also left a link to the Procreate brushes with all those templates if you want to have a look at that. Now, if you want to try out another simple pattern, I suggest you try this tutorial here. See you next time.